If you're like me and can't get enough of slick pixel art, fast-paced combat, and that perfect jump dash parry whoop, then oh boy, 2026 is about to spoil us. This year's lineup of 2D action platformers looks legendary. I've been digging through trailers, dev showcases, and sneak peeks to pull together 11 games that honestly look way too good to ignore. These are some of the best upcoming 2D action platformers that deserve a spot on your radar right now. Let's fire it up. Replaced. Well, what starts off as a sci-fi mystery will quickly turn into something far more unsettling. You will step into an alternate 1980s America that never recovered from nuclear collapse, where corporations didn't rebuild society. They quietly replaced it. Phoenix City stands as a decaying monument to that control, and at the center of it all is Reach, an artificial intelligence forcibly housed inside a human body. As we can expect, the story leans hard into identity, free will, and emotional dissonance, with Reach slowly developing human instincts that clash with its original programming. It's all about corporate crimes buried under propaganda, and the deeper you go, the clearer it becomes that your own creation is tied to Phoenix Corporation's darkest experiments. Abandoned factories, corrupt law enforcers, and desperate civilians all feed into a world where human life has become transactional. On the gameplay side, we're expecting fluid 2.5D movement, tight melee combat mixed with ranged attacks, and cinematic traversal that keeps momentum high without overshadowing the story. Locked for a March 12, 2026 release, it is one of the most ambitious 2D action platformers on the horizon.
Pablo? あなたのことはしっかりと見てるわよ、探偵さん。何せあなたにはこの世界を変えてしまうような特別な力。
Mariachi Legends. Right after diving through cyberpunk corruption, let's slow things down and step into a very different kind of darkness. One rooted in folklore, death, and dusty streets soaked in mystery. This one places us in Santa Mascota, a once lively Mexican town now plagued by unexplained deaths and creeping supernatural forces. You play as Pablo Cruz, a hardened detective who makes a desperate deal with death herself, Madre Katrina. In exchange for the power to become La Sombra, a terrifying spectral warrior, Pablo must hunt down the one man who cheated death and achieved immortality. The town evolves as you progress, with residents opening shops, offering side quests, and reacting to the chaos around them, which makes the world feel deeply alive. Targeting a second quarter 2026 release, this one looks like a story-first action platformer that will give us folklore, detective work, and raw combat that'll turn into something seriously memorable. Volunteer, the Ascension. This one will drop us into the world of Roa, a massive, ever-shifting land shaped by ancient gods and the consequences of human defiance. You get to play as Hera, a mysterious child burdened with a fate that places them directly against divine forces that were never meant to be challenged. I think what makes the story especially compelling is how the world itself reacts to Hera's choices. Entire areas change, paths open or vanish, and relationships evolve based on who you trust, help, or abandon along the way. Narrative progression is tightly bound to the fated bond system, where allies are not just combat tools, but fully realized characters with personal arcs, moral conflicts, and emotional stakes. You're not saving the world alone, and the game makes sure you feel the weight of every connection you form or lose. With a planned 2026 release, this sure looks like a title to look out for. ChainStaff. Alright, now let's crank the volume way up and lean into something raw, loud, and gloriously unhinged. This one throws you into a full-scale alien infestation where Earth's wildlife has been twisted into grotesque killing machines by an invasive force known as the Star Spores. Things get personal fast, because one of these aliens isn't just invading the planet, it's literally attached to your head. That parasitic presence becomes the narrative backbone, constantly whispering suggestions, questioning your morality, and pushing you toward choices that may save humanity or damn what's left of it. You'll encounter stranded soldiers across surreal, hostile environments, and every encounter forces a decision. Do you rescue them and hold on to your humanity, or sacrifice them for power and edge closer to something monstrous? Those choices directly shape the ending and how your character mentally unravels. On the gameplay side, ChainStaff revolves around a transforming weapon that acts as a spear, shield, and grappling hook, all mapped to fluid, momentum-based combat. Aokaki. Next up, this one drops us into the Sangi province, a land torn apart by tyranny and unnatural corruption. You will play as a wandering Ronin who once abandoned his title in the name of justice, only to return home and find everything he stood for twisted beyond recognition. The shogun you defied now rules with the help of a demonic fungal power that spreads decay through the land, warping creatures, soldiers, and entire regions. As we can expect, the story follows a lone warrior who must confront not only the shogun's 4 generals, but the consequences of walking away years earlier. On the gameplay side, Aokaki leans into speed, precision, and expressive movement, encouraging dashes, parries, and stylish combat flow. Targeting a Q2 2026 release, this one looks like a tight, character-driven action platformer with a surprisingly heartfelt core. Evolvania. Alright, now let's go somewhere deeply unsettling, the kind of place that feels alive in all the wrong ways. This one throws you inside a colossal living organism, not metaphorically, but literally. You play as a strange, wandering eye, driven by an almost instinctual need to survive, evolve, and understand what it has been trapped inside. I mean, the story is deliberately abstract and unsettling. The deeper you travel into this creature's massive organs, veins, and cavities, the more questions surface about your origin, your purpose, and whether you're a parasite, a cure, or something far worse. Environmental storytelling does most of the talking here, with every grotesque chamber hinting at experiments, mutations, and a long-forgotten catastrophe that turned a living being into a world-sized prison. Absorbing enemies and merging with environmental elements is kind of how the story advances. You're constantly becoming something new, faster, stronger, or more monstrous. And the game quietly asks whether evolution or salvation or corruption. Aggelos 2. From body horror and mutation, let's lift our eyes toward the heavens, because the next world we're stepping into is on the brink of divine collapse. This story unfolds at the exact moment when the gods of light are about to lose an ancient war they were never meant to lose. As one of the highest-ranked celestial warriors, you're summoned into Lumen, a sacred realm already cracking under the pressure of an invading darkness. Entire regions exist in a fragile overlap, where light and shadow occupy the same space, and survival depends on understanding both sides of creation. As I'm expecting, the story leans heavily into duality, order versus chaos, faith versus destruction, and even the terrifying idea that even gods can fail. Every area you explore reflects that imbalance, with corrupted sanctuaries, fractured temples, and enemies shaped by the same war tearing the realms apart. Shifting between celestial and infernal forms isn't framed as a gimmick, but as a moral and strategic necessity in a world where purity alone no longer works. Eden's Guardian. Let's keep moving, because the next world we're stepping into feels ancient, broken, and heavy with forgotten sins. This story begins long before your journey ever does, with a forbidden union between a god and a mortal that gave birth to the first Guardians. These beings once ruled alongside humanity, but as generations passed and their divine power weakened, desperation set in. To cling to control, the Guardians embraced a corrupt force that restored their strength while slowly stripping away their sanity. You get to play as one Guardian who resisted that choice, only to be imprisoned for opposing it. When she finally escapes, the world she returns to is unrecognizable, consumed by a creeping curse and haunted by the consequences of divine arrogance. Talking about gameplay, Eden's Guardian introduces a clever sword throw and teleport mechanic that reshapes both combat and traversal, encouraging creative movement and tactical positioning. While a specific date hasn't been locked in yet, it's clearly targeting the 2026 window. Torii. Our next game leans into something far more spiritual and personal, where the stakes feel intimate even as the world itself is coming apart. The journey begins with a broken spirit realm and a missing brother, but it quickly grows into something far larger. You awaken in a world where ancient gates once kept balance between realms, and those connections have started to fail. From what it looks like, the story will unfold slowly and thoughtfully, guiding you through ruined sanctuaries, fading villages, and fragmented spiritual paths that hint at a deeper rupture beneath the surface. Characters you'll meet along the way are shaped by the broken state of the world, and forming new connections becomes just as important as combat. With a planned Q1 2026 release, this looks like a beautifully paced, story-forward action platformer that values emotion as much as mastery. Lovish. This adventure kicks off with what should be a heroic rescue mission, but quickly spirals into a story fueled by jealousy, insecurity, and very questionable decision-making. Sir Solomon sets out with fellow knights to rescue Princess Suna from the Devil Lord, only to panic over the possibility that she might fall for one of his friends instead. Acting on impulse rather than honor, he abandons the group and storms the Devil's Lord's castle alone, convinced that love is something he has to win by force of will. As we can expect, the plot embraces absurdity while quietly poking fun at classic fairy tale tropes, turning the rescue narrative into a self-inflicted trial full of irony and unexpected consequences. Progression will unfold room by room inside the Devil Lord's fortress, with cleared chambers triggering short event scenes that can radically alter the journey. These moments range from random encounters and item discoveries to bizarre story detours that constantly reshape Solomon's quest and mindset. Faeland. And for our last game on today's list, the journey begins in the peaceful fringes of civilization, where humans have spent generations holding the darkness at bay. You play as a young hunter whose life is shattered when trolls and orcs raid your secluded forest home, forcing you to flee into a world far larger and far more dangerous than anything you've ever known. The story will gradually expand from a personal survival tale into a much bigger narrative about balance, destiny, and a looming threat that could undo centuries of fragile peace. Here, you earn your place through hardship, alliances, and the slow realization that running is no longer an option. NPCs, side quests, and lore discoveries quietly reinforce how close the world is to tipping into chaos. On the gameplay side, Faeland focuses on open-ended exploration, weapon-based combat customization, and ability-driven backtracking in a world inspired by 8-bit classics with modern polish. While it entered early access in 2023, The full 1.0 release is currently targeting early 2026, making it a perfect fit for this list as a fully realized adventure finally reaching its complete form. So, yeah, 2026 is stacked if you love tight jumps, risky combat, and worlds that demand mastery. These 2D action platformers are refining the genre with sharper mechanics, bold visuals, and ideas that actually stick. There's something here worth waiting for. Drop your most anticipated pick in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe for deeper dives on every game you just saw.